Hello, everyone. This is the latest world news in America. If you're interested, I'd appreciate your likes and subscriptions. Good day, dear fans of various weapons. In today's issue, as you have already guessed, I will provide you with information about what nuclear weapons can be used against Russia. What missiles, warheads and bombs are in the nuclear arsenal of NATO countries. How strategic missiles were developed and what they are. The world has been teetering on the brink of a nuclear apocalypse for several months now, although most experts, both adequate and not so adequate, are increasingly dissuaded that such a course of events is possible. Those who are interested in the topic know a lot about Russian nuclear weapons: mobile Topol and Yars, stationary ICBM Voevota, Tu-160 and Tu-95, nuclear submarines with Bulava. In short, the triad and the rest of the strategic missile forces. Do you have any idea what they can hit Russia with? What kind of nuclear weapons are these? What are the structures that possess them? What such weapons are capable of? And what threat they pose? This is what we are going to consider. Russia and the United States are the only countries in the nuclear club today that possess the so-called nuclear triad. That is, they have three components of strategic forces: strategic aviation, submarine missile carriers and intercontinental missiles on land. There is no point in loading the history of the US competition with the USSR, so let's start with the end of the Cold War. At that time, the nuclear program was curtailed and funding was redistributed. The reduction of warheads and carriers began. Production and development of new types of weapons was stopped. In return, research began on how to manage the remaining arsenal, control the condition of mines and missiles, and improve warning and control systems. And, finally, compensation for military and civilian personnel who put their health on the line working for the nuclear defense industry. In addition, compensation for environmental impact. In general, the development of strategic weapons has not been practiced for a long time. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attack forced the Republicans to return to development when they wanted to vote for the development of nuclear bunker weapons to harass the Taliban with them, but it all sank in the debate with the Democrats. At the same time, the power units of launch vehicles, as well as guidance and control systems, were being modernized. The second time Donald Trump sounded the alarm bells in 2017, he declared his desire to expand and modernize strategic forces. According to legend, during negotiations with Putin, who proposed to extend the START III, Strategic Offensive Arms Reduction Treaty, Trump had to ask his advisor what nonsense this Russian is asking him about. It is not known what Donald had time to do in his short presidency, but clearly it was not enough time. The US has not conducted a deep modernization and renewal of strategic nuclear weapons for more than 30 years. In 2020, the ground-based Strategic Deterrent Project was launched, and the LGM-35 Sentinel missile was developed. There was much less debate this time because the main intercontinental missile of the nuclear deterrent force was over 50 years old by that time. The transition to new weapons is scheduled for 2029-2075. We can't know much about how things are progressing under the Biden cabinet, especially during the economic recession. The project development alone costs $13.5 billion. At the same time, we must assume that recent events have had a significant impact on the priorities of the US government. What is US nuclear power today? The Minuteman III, LGM-30G, is a silo-based main ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile. Its parameters are closer to those of the Topol missiles, which it was a response to in 1970. But, unlike the Topols, it has no mobile version. MGM-134A, Midgetman never reached service. In terms of range, after a series of modernizations, it is slightly superior to its Topol and Yars counterparts, 13,000 kilometers versus 12,000 kilometers. But it all depends on the payload of the warhead, and also take into account its many failed test launches with premature detonation in recent years. The story with the warheads is more complicated. There was the first in the series of Minuteman modification with a split warhead, which allowed to target bomb 3 objects or strongly bang one at a time with 3 warheads. For this purpose, the W-78 warhead was invented with a yield of 300 kilotons (kt). Minutemen. This was the name given to the semi-regular formations for the Americans in the 17th and 18th centuries, which reinforced the regular British and later Continental forces. In the event of a declaration of war, they were to report at arms as soon as possible, hence the name. More powerful thermonuclear W-87s were previously on the LGM-118 Peacekeeper ICBM, each missile carrying up to 10 warheads, with a yield of 475 kT each. But since 2007 the Peacekeepers have been withdrawn from service, and the W-87s were planned to be installed on the Minutemen. The replacement program was planned to stretch from 2002 to 2009, but after reorientation to the creation of LGM-35 Sentinel, on which will be put upgraded W-87, more Minutemen are not equipped with them. There was information about the rearming of 70 missiles out of 450 active ones, but the exact information is unknown. UM-133A Trident II-C based ICBM for nuclear submarines. Range up to 11,500 kilometers. It is armed with 475 kT W-88 or 100 kT W-76 warheads. Thanks to a series of upgrades to the guidance systems, the CEP, circular probable deviation, has been brought to 90 meters. For comparison, the Russian analog Bulava has a CEP of 120 to 350 meters, while the R-29R Mu-2 Suniva has a CEP of 250 meters. According to the established trend, the missile is launched from a dry launch, i.e. without filling the launch container with water, as in the case of the Russian Bulava's predecessors Suniva missiles. The range, depending on the load from 7,500 kilometers to 12,000 kilometers, also surpasses most Russian analogs, while remaining more powerful than not only Bulava, 6 at 150 kT, but also Suniva, 4 at 500 kT. Trident II carries 8 at 475 or 14 at 100 kilotons in a separable warhead. The D-5 missile has a very good test flight success rate, with 177 successful launches versus 10 failed launches. B-52 Stratofortress and B-2 Spirit closes the U.S. nuclear triad. Unlike the previous ones, have a lot of non-nuclear arsenal, which allows them to be used not only in the doomsday. But we are, of course, interested in nuclear capabilities today. The B-61 and B-83 are free-fall thermonuclear bombs. B-83 is for Spirit only, equipped with a variable yield charge of 1.2 megatons, MT. B-61 is a very old bomb, it has 13 modifications and is used on both strategic bombers. And Modification 11 is considered a bunker due to the reinforcement of the body, and retarder of detonation is able to burst, going several meters into the ground, thereby taking most of the energy of the explosion in the ground rather than in the air. The M86 is a cruise missile, almost the same as and sister to the Tomahawks, but of the air-to-ground class. Using the advantages of cruise missiles, it is capable of carrying a nuclear charge at ultra-low altitudes with a circular probable deflection of 80 meters. W-80 warhead, 5 each 150 200 kT, range 1200-2400 kilometers, based only on the B-52. M129 ACM is a new generation cruise missile, highly accurate with a CEP of 30 meters, but with a W-80 warhead, similar to the M86. It is made of stealth technology from radio-absorbing materials and is undetectable in radar and infrared ranges. It has been withdrawn from service but is in reserve. In the foreseeable future, the U.S. plans to transition to the next generation B-21 Raider strategic bomber. That's it for now, the video was pretty concise. And then I see a huge space for discussion, the place for this, as always, in the comments to this issue. Lastly, I ask you to subscribe to my channel, I'll be glad to have you here in new videos on my YouTube channel. All the best to you and see you soon.